Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible systems that create almost everything in our world, from these massive one-of-a-kind projects to the simple everyday things we totally take for granted. There's a powerful logic at play, and we are going to decode it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. One of those is this unique, colossal structure that will never, ever be built the same way twice. The other is a perfectly standardized product repeated millions of times without a single error. So how can one single idea, production, possibly cover both of those things? Well, that's the core question we're going to unpack right now.
You know, at its heart, all production starts with the exact same challenge. You've got this jumble of inputs, people, raw materials, information, machines, you name it. And the goal is to somehow transform all that chaos into a finished product that someone actually finds valuable. It's really about creating order and usefulness where there wasn't any before. So, here's the formal definition. And the two most important bits of language here are organized activity and transforming resources. It's not just about making physical stuff. It's a process that actually adds value. And that's why it applies just as much to, say, creating an ad campaign as it does to building a car. Okay, so how do you even begin to organize all of that chaos? Well, the very first, most fundamental decision you have to make is choosing your production strategy. And it turns out, no matter what you're making, there are really only 3 core ways to go about it. These 3 methods, they're like the strategic backbone of how we make pretty much everything. Think of them as different tools for completely different tasks, and choosing the right one, right from the start, that is absolutely the most critical first step you can take. And what's so fascinating about this is how clearly it lays out the trade-offs, right? You want maximum flexibility for a custom one-off project like that bridge? Okay, you choose job production, but you completely sacrifice volume. On the other hand, you need incredibly high volume for something standardized like a car. You go with mass production, but you lose almost all your flexibility. And batch production? Well, it sits right there in the middle, giving you a little bit of a balance. And this is where it all clicks into place. A giant ship is a unique job. A local bakery produces batches of different kinds of bread and pastries every single morning. And of course, a car factory uses mass production to just churn out thousands of identical vehicles. You can really see how the method is perfectly tailored to the product itself. But look, choosing a strategy is just the beginning. How do you actually coordinate everything? The materials, the machines, the people, so it all just works? Well, you need a master plan. And this is where the whole concept of production planning and control, or PPC, comes in. I just love this analogy from our source material. If the entire production system, the factory floor, the workers, the machines, is the body's nervous system, then PPC is the brain. It's the central intelligence that's directing all the actions, making sure everything happens in the right order at exactly the right time. And the crucial idea to hang on to here is that PPC is a predetermined process. It's all about thinking ahead to perfectly coordinate all of your resources. The goals sound simple, but trust me, it's incredibly difficult. Achieving maximum efficiency, getting the most output with the absolute least amount of waste. And when that brain is working the way it's supposed to, the benefits are huge. You use your resources better, production flows smoothly without any interruptions, costs go way down, and you don't have too much or too little inventory just sitting around. And most importantly, you hit your delivery dates and you keep your customers happy. This, right here, is why PPC is so unbelievably vital. So a plan is great, but how do you actually execute it day to day, hour to hour? You need to translate that high-level strategy into a concrete timeline. And this brings us to the practical tools that make the plan real, starting with scheduling. Scheduling is where the rubber meets the road. It's this super detailed timetable that answers 2 simple questions for every single task: when and where. It takes the what and how of your plan and turns it into a tangible, time-based sequence of actions. For over 100 years, one of the most effective tools for this has been the Gantt chart. It's such a brilliantly simple idea. You just take all your tasks and plot them as bars on a calendar. With one look, you can see what needs to be done, by when, and in what order. It's fantastic. And creating one isn't some kind of magic. It's just a logical process. First, you review the whole scope, then you break it all down into activities. You sequence them, you plan your resources, you estimate how long it's all going to take, and finally, you build the schedule. It's a system for bringing pure clarity to even the most complex projects. But even with the most perfect plan and the most beautiful Gantt chart you've ever seen, things can still go wrong. Production flow can grind to a screeching halt because of a single persistent problem that every system has to face, the bottleneck. So a bottleneck is any point in the process that just gets totally overwhelmed. It's getting work faster than it can possibly handle it, even when it's running at 100% capacity. Just picture a 5-lane highway suddenly squeezing down to one single lane. You know a traffic jam is coming. It's inevitable. In an ideal world, your production line is like a perfectly flowing river. Work just moves from one station to the next in this steady, predictable stream. Every stage has just enough capacity to handle the work it gets from the stage right before it. It's beautiful. But a bottleneck acts like a dam in that river. Work starts piling up in a massive queue right before the dam. And just as importantly, everything downstream from the dam is starved for work. Those machines, those people, they're just sitting there totally idle, waiting for the little trickle of work that manages to get through. The entire system just suffers. So how do you find these hidden dams in your system? Well, you do a little detective work. You look for accumulation, literally, where are the piles of work? You watch for wait times, which stages are always sitting around idle. And you measure throughput to find the single stage with the absolute lowest output. Wherever you find that, that's your bottleneck. So here's a final thought for you. Now that you understand the logic of production, from the strategy to the planning to the flow, start looking for it in the world around you. What's the real bottleneck at the grocery store checkout? Or in your morning commute? Once you start looking for it, I promise you'll start to see this logic everywhere.